Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear and see me okay. Doing a live stream. Haven't done one of these in a little while. I thought it would be fun to do before I have to go do another contract and I'm out of here for a little while. So today, I thought it would be cool to talk about some fragrances I kind of picked up recently. Most of these, if not all of them, I've reviewed on my channel, but I thought it would be fun to just kind of go through them and everything like that. So, sorry for the shitty video quality, but I'm using my webcam, so hopefully at least the audio is okay. I also have two guitar pedals I figured I would show because I do a lot of different things on this channel. I've posted myself playing guitar a couple times, but I've never really done any music related content, which is kind of interesting considering it's my job. But I don't know. Sometimes when I'm really busy doing shows and stuff, I don't want to think about music when I come home from work, if that makes sense. I just want to think about other things like games and movies. But I still am quite a music hobbyist, so I figured I would show some of that off, and maybe some of you folks are into that. I got some cranberry ginger ale. It's delicious. All right, so why don't I just talk about fragrances first? We'll do music later because I'm sure not most of you don't care about the music stuff. A lot of these are Happy Land Studio fragrances, as you know. That's like my favorite house. I'll start with two bottles that I got. I got Shameless. I don't know if they'll be backwards or not, but Shameless and Shadowland, which is I'm so sorry about the video quality. It's terrible. Shadowland. I've actually, as a tangent and aside, I got a new camera, a new phone, a month or two ago, and that has a 4K camera on it. So I don't know if you can notice a difference in my videos recently, but I've been shooting them at 4K, which is cool. So if you have like a 4K TV or a 4K monitor, that's cool. Hopefully it's improved. But webcam today. So I wanted to try these for a while. Shameless I wanted to try because, I don't like freshies or anything like that. I tend to go for thicker winter scents and things like that. So I really wanted to try what his take on it would be. Because EJ always has unique takes on everything. So I thought, okay, if he's going to make a summer freshie, I don't think he's going to make something very generic. He's going to put some sort of spin on it. So let me just pull up chat. Sorry about that. And if I can, I don't know if you can. I've mentioned this every time I stream because I love to complain, but you use OBS now to stream to YouTube, and my YouTube and my Twitch settings are totally different. So I don't know if I can actually pull up the chat on here. Probably not. Looks like no. That's okay. I'll just do it on here. Anyways, sorry about that. So, Shameless. This is not one of my favorites. I do like it. It is good, but I was like, I would be lying if I said I was super impressed with this. I was almost a little disappointed when I smelled it. It's not bad, but to me it does really smell like a generic summer freshie, which is what I was hoping it wouldn't be. And perhaps, there's two sides of the coin. I was kind of thinking, he did call it Shameless. It's called Shameless, and he doesn't do this kind of scent. So I figured, okay, maybe that's just you guys have been asking for this, you're going to get it. That's one side of the coin. The other side is I kind of wish that he did do something unique on it. Now, it's not totally generic. The dry down of this is very nice, and there's this oak mossy vanilla kind of smell that comes out. It's not very strong. It doesn't jump into fall category, but this scent is, in my opinion, is like Aventus and Sauvage kind of mixed together. Mostly Sauvage, a little bit of Aventus DNA in the opening. I think that the majority of the fragrance is like a slightly fresher take on Sauvage. Very, very nice, juicy kind of citrusy smell at the top that I really like. That doesn't last a very long time. Citrus notes don't tend to, but it's a very fresh sort of citrus that you don't get in a lot of sort of scents. Like a lot of freshies have a generic sort of citrus smell. This smells very real. It almost smells like oranges, like fresh oranges. It's very nice. But it is kind of generic, and then it goes into what I would consider a Sauvage style smell for most of the fragrance, and the dry down has that vanilla oak mossy blend that is really nice. I wish there was a touch more vanilla in this. You know, it might be weird to have a freshie with vanilla in it, but I really think if the vanilla was kicked up like a notch or two, it would make this this dry down really something special. But as it stands, it's just kind of nice. And you know, I already have a bottle of Sauvage, so it's like, which one am I gonna wear? You know, Sauvage is slightly more muted and slightly less fresh, so this probably pushes Sauvage out. You know, but not to say this is bad. Plenty of people like it and have been giving it great reviews, and you know, I'm just not a summer freshie guy, but I am glad I have it because I can't. You know, sometimes I do want to wear something fresh. I have Aqua di Gio and a couple other freshies, but that's a really good one, you know. Another one is Shadowland, as I showed you. I think this bottle is really cool. Sorry it's so hard to see. This one I really like, and this one got kind of mixed reviews, and some people said the opening was really rough and not great, and then there was the dry down where it was special. And that's something that I've seen from a lot of people. And I like the whole thing the whole way through, but I could see why people don't like the opening. I really like this fragrance. I was wanting to try it for a long time because I thought it was going to be something really out there that like almost like Blue Fire, something he hadn't really done before. And this is definitely that. It's very unlike a lot of his other fragrances that are either sweet, rich fall and winter scents or very old school masculine style scents. And this one kind of doesn't fit into any of those categories, much like Blue Fire. The opening smells honestly kind of like dryer sheets or linens with a very strong spicy lavender, a very masculine lavender. And so I could see why people don't like that. That's a comfort sort of smell for me. That smells amazing. So I like the opening. There's a bit of a note in there. I don't know if it's basil or something. There's a slightly sour, astringent note in the opening that I don't mind personally. I kind of like it. It's this weird note that comes in along with this linen dryer sheet sort of smell. But I could see why people don't like that. I could see that. And to be honest, I think that if that note was taken out of the fragrance, I'd like it more. I just don't personally mind it that much. But then the dry down is this lovely, powdery, clean cotton sort of smell, really, for most of the fragrance. Some masculine, influences in there, but that's most of the fragrance. It's more of a mature scent. It's more of a older scent, maybe. I don't know how to categorize that, but I really like it. I could see why people didn't, but I think it's really awesome. Next, I got 2 Happy Land fragrances, 2 more. We got Home for the Holidays Decaf Edition, which is the version of this that has had the coffee removed. And, you know, I've mentioned Home for the Holidays before. I really like it, but it's like two very bold things combined, which becomes overwhelming. And I think that the coffee is very good in that fragrance, but very bold. And then you have this very sweet, syrupy smell. And I think the two become too much. So it was my hope with this that removing that coffee would tame it down a bit. And yeah, it did. And he changed the fragrance. It's not just the coffee removed. And I think that that's what makes this special, because it's a very, very sweet fragrance. It's very syrupy, maple syrup kind of spices, pumpkin pie spices, the sense of Thanksgiving and desserts. So it's very sweet, but somehow it smells less sweet to me than the original. I always got this sugary, dried sugar, icing, vanilla sort of smell at the dry down of the original that was very sweet. Good, but very sweet. And I don't really get this in here. There's more of this soft spice sort of smell. Sometimes reminds me a bit of potpourri, like just spices of candles of Thanksgiving and mixed with the baked goods smell. So there's this kind of food smell mixed with a sort of aromatic, sort of festive smell. And it's very good. It's still very, very sweet. If you don't like sweet fragrances, then this definitely you need to stay away from. But it's less sweet than the original, I think, and it's really good. It's really good. It's very strong. I mean, all of these Happy Lands are very strong. I've talked about that. Sometimes they're too strong. This one is wicked strong. It just one spray, your whole house is going to smell like it. It's a tough one to wear sometimes, but it's really good. And then the other one is this newest one, Paisley Dreams, which he said is unisex, but was kind of marketed towards women. And I do think it is unisex because it's a very unique kind of perfume, and I think a lot of guys would like it. But I would say it definitely leans feminine. I think it's intended for women, and parts of it I like more than the original Paisley Sky. I love the dry down of Paisley Sky that has that like Baccarat Rouge 540 vibe. It's got this smoky oud mixed with this cotton candy sort of smell, saffron kind of ethyl maltol sort of smell, and it's really really good and weird, and which is why I like it. This doesn't, but the problem with that one is the opening I almost find too sweet and too pungent, too smoky. It's like when it dries down it's really good, but I find that top a little too strong for my taste sometimes, and this kind of removes that. In some ways it's sweeter. I think the dry down, oddly enough, is sweeter than the other one, but I find the opening less sweet because that smoky kick is gone, and while it still has that cotton candy kind of vibe of the other one, the opening of this is dominated by ylang ylang, which is an odd smell if you aren't initiated to it. It's a flower that kind of smells like a cross between rubber and bananas, which sounds really weird, but it's not that pungent. It really does remind you of that, but in a good way. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a weird, really weird smell, but it's pleasing though. It's not like oud is pleasing to a lot of people, but to the uninitiated can be very difficult to kind of get your nose around. I don't really think that ylang ylang is like that. It's just something you probably haven't smelled before, and it's dominated by that. I really like it. It gives it this weird rubbery aromatic, I don't know. It does kind of feel psychedelic. It fits in line with the original. It's just more elegant in a way. It reminds me of like early 1900s people dressed up sitting in a parlor. I don't, if that makes any sense to you. It just has that very elegant sort of smell to it. The dry down does get sweeter. It does lean more on the cotton candy smell, which the dry down of this I'm not crazy about, but I think it leans more feminine because it really just starts to go into that cotton candy vibe, which is like, hey, women like sweeter scents. That's kind of how it feels to me. But the mids of this, after that ylang ylang dies down, the mids have this like patchouli kick in it that definitely makes it seem more masculine, or like a really bold woman to wear this perfume. It smells very alluring in the mids with that patchouli kind of, almost, maybe there is oud in this still. I don't think there is, but I almost get a smoky kind of animalistic bite in the mids of this. So it's not one I'm going to wear a lot because it's very sweet and feminine, but I do like it a lot. And the other two I've reviewed as well, but I figured I would. London Barbershop by Maggard Razors. You have to simply try this if you like soapy scents. It's the best I've ever tried. I like it more than Prada Amber Pour Homme, which I've raved about for a while. Still love that fragrance, but this is like, I love the smell of Dove White, and this is pretty much what this smells like. Done very well. Not exact. It's got a little more of a floral perfume quality to it. Maybe like Olay body wash or something like that. It actually kind of smells like that. Or like a little tiny bit of a barbershop influence with some patchouli and stuff. But it nails that Dove White sort of bar soap smell without any of the nasty stuff I get from a lot of other fragrances. I had alt fragrances Suds, which they said was supposed to smell like a bar of Dove White, and it didn't, because I think a lot of people, when they try to make soap style perfumes, go crazy with aldehydes and stuff, which can get really really overpowering and like sensory overload. It makes the fragrances smell very sharp and pungent almost, which is not what you want a soap to smell like. They nailed it in this. So again, if you like soapy scents, this is the best I've ever tried. It's round and soft. It's very soft and almost powdery in a way. It doesn't have the rough edges that a lot of those other style soap scents have. Prada Amber Pour Homme has those rough edges, but it's almost intentional. You know, it's not supposed to smell exactly like soap. There's a bit of a kick going on in there. This is trying to mimic soap, and it does it absolutely perfectly. This is just amazing juice. Very inexpensive. That's a 2-ounce bottle. I think it's $30. I have their shaving soap, and they have everything that they make. They have in the scent of in the line, basically. If you want beard balm or bar soap or whatever, Maggard sells all wet shaving supplies of all manufacturers, but their house brand is really good. And the last is Pineapple Vintage Emperor Extrait, which was like something I was like, am I going to really regret this purchase? This is going to be some silly thing. I think that for a lot of people, the cheaper ones, the go-to clones, are just fine. But I have to tell you, I should have done it for my YouTube channel, but I kind of like to review stuff just for what it is. I have compared this to some other clones I have of Aventus that I've worn in the past and enjoyed a lot. And I was kind of thinking, I remember when I got this, I'm like, it does smell fresher and juicier, and it smells more vibrant. And overall, it's like a notch up, but it does smell, very similar to the others. But then when I smelled it against those other clones, they didn't smell as good. It was almost like, oh, I misremembered the scent. They smelled much more muted and didn't have the vibrancy of this. A substantial difference, in my opinion. I got this one in particular because I really like the smoky aspect, and I know this one is closer to original batches that were more smoky, and it certainly got that, and it has this really, really good vanilla dry down, and it was unexpected to me to have any vanilla in this, and that is a really good thing. So it smells very, very fresh and juicy, very good at the top. This is like the perfect fresh scent for me because it's fresh, but it's got that smoky kick that I like. It's not totally fresh. It's not overly musky. It's just smoky and ashy, and I really, really like it. So those are the fragrances I've gotten recently. I got a couple more that they're really good. I really like them. That's basically it with fragrances. The only other thing, I wanted to review a couple pedals if anyone's interested in guitar stuff. First things first, I want to get my amp I got recently. This, if you're interested, is a really cool thing. This is by a company called Milkman Amps, and this is this amp I got. And it's an interesting thing because it looks like a pedal. It really does look like a guitar pedal, a very large guitar pedal. But it's actually an amp head. It's a 50-watt amp head that is voiced kind of like old school Fender style amps. I got it because I have a Helix, and I've used that for gigs. And I'm not saying that you can't get great sounds out of that, but I think that it's hard for me to get sounds that are pleasing and acceptable to me out of that thing. There's a lot of tweaking that has to go into it, and I do get option anxiety. There's so many amps and settings. I kind of wanted something that, because I play musical theater, and it's often hard to mic a guitar amp. I know that sounds like heresy to some guitarists, but that's the way it is. Sometimes you can't have an amp. There's either no space for it or it's a sound issue. So I've been needing something to go direct to the board that's going to sound good. That's why I got the Helix, and it does, sound good. But I wanted something that was basically going to be an amp, a real kind of amp that was going to not have a ton of options and just kind of sound good straight out. So that's why I got this. It's got fixed middle position, fixed mids, but it's got bass, treble, a volume control, a master, and it has reverb and a very, very good tremolo on here with a depth and rate control, and then 2-foot switches for those effects. And on the back, it has, of course, the power. It's got an off-on switch, a speaker out, which is great. Because this is an amp head, I can connect this to an amp cab and have that mic'd, and it will sound great. 4, 8, and 16 ohms, and then the balanced out XLR, which is awesome. So I can go direct to the board, and then a cab sim and a ground lift. Pedal out if you want to go into a pedal board, and then the input. So the cab sim thing was awesome so that I didn't have to get a separate cab simulator or anything like that. I can just switch this on and the cab sim turns on. I haven't played it through a cabinet, unfortunately. I'm going to get one soon, but I don't have one. Headphone sounds pretty good. When the cab sim's off, it sounds horrible, of course. When the cab sim is on, it definitely sounds pretty passable. Like you could probably play live or record something and no one would really know. To my ears, it sounds still a little sterile, but I have used it direct to the board through powered speakers in a gig, and it sounded really good in the mix. It just sounded like I had a Fender amp there. It would be me being more pleased with the feel and everything if it went through a real cab. So that's really good. The only things I don't like about it, one is that there was a stripped screw on the back, because this does have a tube. I don't know which tube is in it, but it has a tube powering the preamp in it, which is where you get some of that feel. And the screw was stripped on the back, so I can't open the back of it to get in there and look at the tube. There's also some switches in there that control the different reverbs and tremolos, and I can't get it open because it was stripped, which is weird because Tim Marcus, the guy that makes these, is meticulous. I mean, this is like very expensive, but it feels so well made compared to something not from the USA. So I was kind of surprised that there was a stripped screw on the back, but whatever. The only other thing I don't like is the reverb. Sounds great, like a great spring reverb, but the decay is extremely dialed in high, and there's no decay knob on here. So I've kind of like run the reverb low because I don't want that decay sound to get muddied, but then it doesn't sound like there's a lot of reverb on. So when I want to turn it up to where it has a nice kind of swell to it, that delay is very, very like overwhelming. He has another one, like a 100-watt model with a boost on it, and that has control for the decay. But the fact that he didn't include that on here is kind of baffling and is definitely a bad design choice, because the reverb... I can't use the reverb live, really. It's that bad. At home, it's fine, but at live, I have to use a different reverb. That's just something that I feel was easily avoided and kind of a bad choice. But other than that, it's excellent. And then I just got two pedals that I'll talk about real quick. Two NuX pedals. I really like those clone companies. A lot of them are shitty, but there's some good ones that put out really good stuff. Mooer is one of them. They don't really put out their mini pedals anymore, so those are starting to get expensive. Some of them are now like more money than the originals, which is kind of stupid. But NuX is, I think they're like the up and coming one, so I'm trying to get some of their stuff before it starts getting crazy, because it is starting to get more expensive and it's starting to run out really quick, and they're going to eventually stop making this stuff because all these companies, they like to do these mini pedals and these clones, and everyone loves them. And then they want to reinvent themselves as like, look at us, we're a legit company. Like we don't just do clones. And then they stop making them. So I got their Steel Singer Drive, which looks like, of course, a Dumble steel string singer. Also, rest in peace to Howard Dumble. He just passed away a couple days ago. And I think that most people think, and from their marketing, really, their marketing's a touch deceptive on this, that this is kind of like the Vertex steel string singer or whatever their pedal is called. And, a lot of people don't want to support Vertex because that guy steals other people's designs and all sorts of shady stuff. So people are looking for alternatives. So NuX being, a pretty savvy company, of course they jumped on that. This isn't really an alternative to that, though, because it's not like something that's going to give you a steel string singer flavor. It just has the casing that looks like it. And I think that the case is freaking awesome. I love the steel string singer. To me, is my favorite looking amp of all time. I think just the look of it looks incredible. Of course, it sounds good, but these knobs, there's something like cool and retro about them that I love. So this pedal looks awesome. I think what it is that it's like a way huge overrated special, which was an overdrive that came out that looks just, it's got the steel string singer paint job on it, and it was made for Joe Bonamassa. And then Joe Bonamassa came out and said, oh, well, we were just bullshitting with that, name. That was just for fun. It's not like a Dumble style thing. It's like a modified tube screamer, which is what I think this is. I think a lot of those tumble style pedals are really just tube screamer modified things. But I like tube screamers. I have 2 of them. I love tube screamers. So this is basically the tube screamer in a box, just with a couple different things. I mean, I've compared it to my tube screamers, and I can get the same, almost identical sound on it, if not identical. So it really, I'm saying tube screamer a lot, but I need to get my point across. But this is, it's not a clean boost like the other ones are supposed to be. And I do wish it went clean, but when you turn the when you turn the gain all the way down on this, you still get a touch of dirt. That's disappointing. I wish that it went totally clean and it could just give me that flavor, but it does add a touch of dirt. And then once you get up to noon, which is where I run it, you get a nice tube screamer sound, and then of course you can crank it if you want, but I run it there. The filter, it kind of adds like high and low mids, I feel. I normally run it at noon as well, or maybe a little below. I've messed around with that. It has a lot of gain on tap. I normally find when I'm at noon, a lot of volume rather, that my volume knob is like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock sometimes. So it's a pretty loud pedal. But I kind of like it. It's a little more sonically diverse than a tube screamer, just a touch. And it looks really cool. So I kind of go back and forth between that one and my tube screamer. I do feel that has a little more bite to it, but it just depends on the situation. And then the last pedal I got was from Nuix as well, and that's their Horseman, which is their Klon Centaur clone. Every company has a Klon Centaur clone. I've watched so many AB videos of these pedals versus Klons, and I'll tell you that a lot of them, I'm not going to say that they're just as good. They probably are, like 99% of the way there. But most of them sound almost the same. There's a couple that sound a little too dark for my tastes, but this one is pretty good. I think it's really good, actually. And it's basically, the Klon can act as a kind of like a clean boost if the gain's all the way down. And then on this pedal, even when you get up to like noon, I know it's hard to see, but when you get up to like noon on the gain, there's barely a lot of overdrive there. It adds like a touch when, like, it almost at noon adds like breakup. If I'm playing clean leads, then I will turn this on. Oh, Daniel-san, what's up, man? How you doing? It's great to see you. I'm just talking about some guitar pedals. I just did all the clones, and I figured I would do some guitar stuff now. But yeah, at noon, I'm really just getting like a breakup sound on this. So I know most people use this for clean leads, like a clean boost, the Mayer style thing, where the gain is kind of set around 11 or 10 or something like that. But I find in my playing, I don't really play clean leads, even in theater, which is where I play most music, which is very genre diverse. Still don't find myself playing clean leads really. So I don't really use that, but I also play like Allman Brothers. I love the Allman Brothers, and they do play clean kind of leads, a little like with a little dirt. So that's perfect for that. But some people have said that they find the Klon's almost a waste to play that way because it has such great overdrive, and that's true. It's kind of hard. I wish that I had 2 of these really, or like a double pedal of this. I'm sure there is, but I would love like a double Klon pedal, because the overdrive, once you get, I know it's really hard to see, I apologize. Right about there, about 2 or 3 o'clock, the gain overdrive kicks in and it sounds really good. It's got a hairy kind of bite to it that like my other tube screamers don't have. It does color your tone. I don't know if the original does. Many people say that the original Klon Centaur is very transparent. This does add some color, but it's not as heavy as a tube screamer. It's a little more open, and especially at the lower gain settings, it's just going to add like a nice kind of color to your tone that's not going to overly get in the way. Indecence, what's up? How's it going? But then when you crank this thing, the overdrive, you can get into near distortion level, and the overdrive cranked is really thick and really biting. I do find that the overdrive, while I really like this, is kind of nasally and biting. And I'm more of like a warm, smooth kind of overdrive kind of player. But again, I need different styles of sounds for, different genres when I play live theater. So this kind of works for that. The output, I find that the output on this thing is wild, man. I don't know if the original's like this and this is a downside of this pedal, but I have to run it at like 9 o'clock when it's even low gain, and probably lower than that. Like I run it at like 7 o'clock, this one, 7 o'clock or so. It's really loud. So I can't even imagine like running this with the output at noon. I guess if you wanted like a big boost, so if you want to use this as a boost pedal, there's a ton of headroom on tap. But if you want to use it as an overdrive pedal, it sounds really good, but I find it's really hard to get unity gain. And then the treble control, I don't use too much. I do find that when I roll it past noon, it starts to get almost too warm. There's a volume loss, like you're losing some low mids, and it gets almost unusably warm for my tastes. Of course, if you crank the treble all the way up, it'll like blow your ears out, but I really find noon is about perfect for me. And then this has a silver mode, which is really cool, which none of the other clones, like most of them, don't have. If you hold the foot switch, that light comes on and it goes to silver mode, silver clon, which some people, I even think the original creator said there's no difference, but NuX said that the silver had a touch more gain on tap and was a little more harmonically rich, and that's about on par. This thing, when you turn that on, it gives you a touch more gain and a touch more of like a trebly kind of harmonically rich sort of thing. It's very minimal. It's like nearly indetectable to the average person. I think only you as a guitarist are going to really notice, but it's there if you need it. So it's a cool pedal. I really like it. I haven't quite bonded with it like I'm in love with it, because it does two really different things, and I can't figure either of them out, or which one to use or how to use it. But I feel like I will get there, and I really like it. There's a couple other NuX pedals that I really want to get, like that are, again, as I'm saying, these are selling out. I think people are like really starting to use them. I see people using them that are like using that, like channels that get sent like high quality gear and that use like Strymon pedals and stuff. And I still see people using them. Maybe it's marketing, but they're good. They have one called the Atlantic that is a reverb and a delay, which I need a reverb pedal because, as I said, the reverb on the Milkman amp is not very good. And the reverb has spring, hull, and plate, and it's got a shimmer mode and stuff. That's awesome. And then the reverb, or for the delays, it's got echo, analog, and digital, which is digital with a mod. So it's like, that's really cool. They have a one called the Duo Time, which is a dual delay, and that has like a little screen on it, and it's got a lot of options, and that would be really useful. I just did a show. I don't do crazy delays. I love analog delays and echoes, but I don't ever really do anything other than like a solo delay and a slapback. But I just did a show where we did a U2 song. Oh, Indecence, how's it going? Green Grass and High Tides by Allman Brothers. Oh, yeah. I love In Memory of Elizabeth Reed, Jessica, and Revival are my three favorite. I love those tunes. But I love Allman Brothers. I haven't seen them, but I've seen Dickie Betts many times. I've seen his band play some of these tunes. And they were really good. Yeah, their Duo Time. I just did a show where I needed a double delay. I played a U2 song at the end of the show. What song was it? I still haven't found what I'm looking for, and I had to do the whole edge thing. And so I used a Helix, so I just did it digitally in there. But now that I'm running analog again, or pedal board with a tube amp, that would be really useful and just kind of cool to mess around with. Trying to think if they have any other pedals. They just put out one. They have this line of pedals that are, so you basically have your full size pedals, your mini pedals, and then they have ones that kind of look like Strymon pedals. A little bit bigger size, like a square. They're modeled after Strymons because they have the same knobs. They're totally going for that. They have one that's the King of Tone, so it's got a Tube Screamer and a Morning Glory, which is their blues breaker. They also have a tube blues breaker just on its own as a MIDI pedal, which I'll probably pick up. I probably won't pick up the Ace of Tone because I already have a couple tube screamers. I don't need them in one pedal, kind of. Um, Although it is cool. And then they have a boost and a compressor, which is pretty interesting. But I would probably get them separately. They have a boost and a compressor separately. And then they have this pedal called the Echo, or it's called the Time Core, I think, or something like that. I think it's called the Time Core. They have this line of core pedals, and it's basically like an echo machine. It can do tape echo, and it does it really, really well. So I want to get that too. They also have they have two others that I really want. It's getting expensive, but they have an excellent rotary ensemble Leslie emulator called the Roctory, which sounds really good. And then they have an excellent digital Univibe, not a photocell Univibe, but it's called the Monterey Vibe. And that sounds really good for a digital vibe. I've been wanting to get a Univibe for a while, but I kind of like might get that one in the meantime, but I really like the old photocell ones, like the Deja Vibe. That's really expensive though. And then Voodoo Lab had the Micro Vibe, which was also analog with a photocell and a lamp, and sounded incredible. But they stopped making it, and now it's going for like $250, $300 on Reverb, which sucks. But what are you gonna do? But that's basically it. I'm building this pedal board back up. I need to get another pedal board because I have, well, I can show you. Let me grab my pedal board. I basically have this tiny little Nano, pedal train Nano, which is good for like, I just did a gig where I needed two pedals. It was perfect. And when I'm practicing, but that's not going to work now. I have a couple other ones I wanted to show. I have a couple tube screamers, and I have a distortion, and I have a Joyo American Sound, which is like a Fender amp simulator, which is pretty cool. I have this Donner Ultimate Comp, and then I have Donner Yellow Fall, which is their analog delay. I have to tell you, a lot of people like Donner and Mooer, often they're probably the same boards. They probably are, because I have a Mooer Ensemble King. By the way, this, if you need a cheap chorus, this one is excellent. It's like I believe it's a CE2, Boss CE2 clone, and it sounds excellent. I don't think it's analog though. It says it is. I don't think it is. I'd like to get an analog chorus, because chorus is one of my favorite effects. But the Donner, I always love these Mooer mini pedals because they like made them look like the originals. They use the same font and everything. I mean, that it looks like a Boss, same color, same font. And then these Donner pedals, they look like cheap knockoff pedals, right? Like the logo is kind of silly. They just look like cheaper to me. I mean, they're the same form factor, but they're not as cool, right? But you know what's funny? As much as I love these Mooer pedals and the way they look, I found that these Donner pedals are made better actually than Mooer. They're substantially heavier, and I don't mean like you're gonna have to get the scale out. I mean, you can tell from just picking these up. This Mooer pedal is way lighter than this Donner pedal. The Donner pedals feel better. They don't look as good, but they feel better. Are they reliable? I don't know, but these are good. The Ultimate Comp is just probably like a Boss compressor. I don't really use compressor. I don't like using compressors. I rarely get along with them. It's just something that doesn't really work for me. But I've played a couple country shows, and you kind of need a compressor to do a lot of that kind of, clean kind of playing. So I've used it for that. Otherwise, I don't really use it. And then this Donner Yellow Fall is an analog delay that is probably like the Boss analog delay, the purple magenta cased looking one. Mooer has their Anna Echo, which is probably what this is. I think the Anna Echo looks way cooler, but this is probably the same exact pedal. And for being like a $35 Chinese knockoff pedal, this is excellent. It sounds great. It is a really good sounding analog delay. I prefer Echo and analog delay. Echo can get kind of crazy sometimes, like tape echo sounds, so they're not totally usable live when you're playing something that doesn't call for it, even though I love them. But I often mess around with tape echo. But analog is where I go. Some people like digital because digital delay just is very bright, and it basically just copies what you've played, exactly. And sometimes on stage it can the delays can get lost, so people prefer that brighter delay so it's heard. I've never just been able to work with it. It always sounds like anytime I'm using a digital delay, something's wrong, like it doesn't fit in my playing. I do use it, of course, when it's, stylistically appropriate. But I always prefer analog delay. It just sounds like my instrument has been extended. So that's basically it. Everybody, those are my pedals I got recently and my fragrances. I just wanted to do this and, say hello. I'll be back soon. I'll try to make a couple videos before I leave. About February 1st, I'm going to leave. I'll be gone for a while for work again, but I wanted to try to make as many videos as I could, on stuff I wanted to talk about. So I'll probably upload a video tomorrow or even today of games I've been playing recently, video games. I thought that would be fun. I don't know. So I hope everybody's doing great. And Danielle-san and Indecence, thank you for stopping in. It's always great to hear from you, Danielle-san. Well, you too, Indecence, but I don't think I ever met you before. But yeah, take care.